guys, I'm going to talk to you from the subject of today is, I want to talk to you about AAA benefits.
AAA benefits.
AAA benefits. AAA benefits. So let me give you a quick background of that real quick. You know, guys, with you guys know, like AAA, that's a big time insurance company, and so and the company was founded in 1902, and so the company came about because there was a lack of roads in those days. There was a lack of roads, and there was a lack of coverage and benefits for the drivers during that time. And so this group of people got together and said, we're gonna give some coverage. We're gonna meet a need. So there was obviously a deficiency, or there was something missing for some drivers during that time. So there was a lack of roads during that time. There was a lack of other things that was going on. So this group got together. They said, hey, we're gonna come together and we're gonna supply benefits. We're gonna do all these things. And so that's how the company got started. And so within like insurance policies and all these things, there's this thing they call declarations, right? And so the declarations is with the policy, they states your name, your address, and the location, and the policy period, and it talks about everything that this plan encompasses, right? And it's basically like a proof of insurance. It's a proof of insurance. It's a proof of something. And so here's the thing about insurance, like AAA and all the other companies. You know, it gives you benefits, but in this policy, a lot of times, some of the benefits are limited on what they can offer. If you get outside of this over here, it's not offered over there. Certain benefits, certain coverage is not offered over there, and all these things. And so, it's limited on what it can do. It's limited on what it can offer you. It's limited on coverage. It's limited on benefits. It's limited. And again, the company was started because there was a lack of roads during those times. Back in those early days, there was a lack of benefits that was offered to the people. I mean, something wasn't sufficient in what was going on to the drivers. Something was not sufficient. And so in our walk in life, there's some roads that are not sufficient for us to be traveling down. There's some roads that we shouldn't be going down. Now here's the challenge there. There also are some roads that may be sufficient, they may be good, they may just not be the road that you need to be traveling
Come
down.
on.
And so if we're traveling down the road that we shouldn't be going down, then that road basically is a road leading to nowhere. Because sometimes we can be going down a road that leads to nowhere. Just because that road is sufficient, just because it may not have no bumps or no potholes in it, that may not be the road for you.
Come on.
May not be the road for you. So I want to talk to you real quickly today from Matthew chapter 16, verse 13. Matthew chapter 16, starting at verse 13. Familiar passage to most of you guys. Now, it says, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say that the Son of Man is? Patrick, stay right there for a minute. He says, who do people say that the Son of Man is? And that's pretty significant right there, because he asked them a question. Whenever God asks you a question, know this, he already knows the answer. He asked this rhetorical question that says, who do people say that the Son of Man is? Jesus didn't really want the answer. When Jesus asks you a question, he wants to make you self-aware of where you are.
Come on.
He wants to make you self-aware of what's going on and what you think. He already knows, because the Bible says he is omniscient. Simply means he knows everything. He don't need you to tell him. He simply wants you to see where you are. Now, it's also significant in the region of Caesarea Philippi. Have you guys ever just read that and you say, okay, Caesarea Philippi, okay, that's just another place. But whenever the Bible specifically names out a specific place or a specific time at a specific location, it means something. He is trying to tell you something. So as you begin to look at the region of Caesarea Philippi, this was in biblical days. It was about, it was located about 15 to 25 miles northeast of the Sea of Galilee. Now, the Sea of Galilee is where Jesus, in his 3.5 years of ministry, where he did most of his ministry, is on the Sea of Galilee. Caesarea Philippi, again, was 15 to 20 miles northeast of Sea of Galilee, and nobody rarely went there because it was the epicenter of pagan worship. Like most of the small g, the gods of Pan and the gods of nature and the gods of all these, small g was located in Caesarea Philippi. Matter of fact, during biblical days, there was not another place of pagan importance of worship than Caesarea Philippi. And so also it had like Syrian gods that was worshipped there, small g, and also had a big huge statue of Caesar Augustus as well that they had to worship and bow down to at those times also. So Jesus takes them to the middle of this pagan place where all this idol worshiping was going on, and he asked them right in the middle of all this, who do people say that I am? It's like when Jesus, like we get in the middle of our hardest situation, the middle of the toughest situations of our life, where chaos is going on, where all this stuff is happening. And Jesus turns around and looks at you and say, I know you are in this challenging place. I know you may be in the toughest place of your life, a place that you have never been before, where everything seems like it's going on, when it seems like it's raining, it's pouring. And Jesus looks at you and says, will you trust me?
Come on. Come on, Pastor D.
Right in the middle of chaos. Like Jesus, did you see me chilling with you over there? And you wait till we get over here in the roughest, toughest part of our life when everything is going wrong? When all this crazy stuff is happening, like you have the power to do anything. You are sovereign. That's what sovereign means, that God does anything that he wants when he wants. He doesn't need your permission. He doesn't need my permission. He waits till you get in the middle of over this stuff. All this stuff is going wrong. Seems like Murphy's Law is in place. If it could go wrong, it will go wrong. And God waits till you get in the middle of that stuff and says, will you trust me? Imagine that.
Good.
So Jesus waits till they get in the middle of this pagan place where all this idol worshiping was going on, where it was nothing but small g's being worshipped, even a self-made statue of Caesar Augustus that the people bowed down to. And he has the nerve to say, who do people say that the Son of Man is? So what was Jesus doing? Jesus was making a point that it doesn't matter where you are. It does not matter what you are going through. It does not matter what you are facing. He says, I'm still God. Right in the middle of all your mess, right in the middle of your chaos, right in the middle of when you seem like you want to give up and bow down and serve your problems and worship the issues and worship everything else going on around you, Jesus looks at you and says, who am I in this situation? Who am I in your life? Who am I in your situation? And here's the secret. God can only be to you what you allow him to be. He can only be to you what you allow him to be. If you know him as Jehovah Shalom, he will be your peace. If you know him as Jehovah Jireh, he will be your provider. If you know him as your Prince of Banner, the one who fights for you, your vindicator, he will be there for you. So God often allows us to get into situations and then looks at you. He doesn't even care about the situation because he's already handled the situation. Looks at you and says, who am I to you in this situation? Who am I to you in this place? Who am I to you in this journey of your life? Who am I to you? Who am I to you? And he goes on to say this. He says, verse 14. He says, well, they replied, well. They said, well? He said it, I mean, it's almost like a little bit of doubt. Jesus asked a question, they said, well, they replied, some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others say Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. Then he asked them, but who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. You are the chosen one, the sent one, the Son of the living God. And that's significant as well because he said, you are the Son of the living God. That's specific. He was stating something specific in a place that was serving idol gods that were made with man's hand. They were not living gods, but they were dead gods. And so Peter says, you are the Son of the living God. You are not this God that made with man's hand. You are not this God that's made of wood and cement and all this stuff that was not living, that had to be carried around if they wanted to be moved from place to place. Had to be sit on high places if they wanted to sit high. Had to be moved over here if they wanted to be moved. Had to be like all this stuff. It had to be done by man's hand. He said those are dead gods. And sometimes we allow situations that have no life, we fall down and worship them, small Jesus. But we serve a living God, a God who is able to do anything but fail, a God who is able to move mountains, a God who has given you the authority to speak to the mountain and the mountains have to obey. God has given us the power to speak to elements and speak to boisterous winds and seas and says, peace be still. And you know what happened? That winds, all this stuff is causing all the issues in your life. They have to obey. Some of you just need to look at the storms in your life and just say, peace be still. That's the living God we serve. It says, and Jesus replied, you are blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You did not learn this from any human being. Because if you ever learned it from human being, like when we learn knowledge and stuff, we try and receive it with a human logic. But like with humanity, so we try and rationalize things. And so when we rationalize things, we limit God on what he can do. But Peter says, you the man, like you the Son of the living God, you the chosen one, you the sent one, you're able to do anything. God, Jesus looks at him and said, flesh and blood did not give you that. So what he was saying was, like, Peter was saying, you unlimited, like you can do all things, like nothing is impossible for you. God can only be to you what you allow him to be. Peter said, you everything to me. You able to do anything. You are the Son of the living God. Not these gods that we see around here that are made out of wood and cement and all this stuff, who can't do a blank for you. Nothing. They can't do nothing for you. Nothing. Verse 18 says, now I say that you are Peter, which means rock. He says, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the powers of hell will not conquer it. I love that part right there as well, because he says And you got to understand, like in Caesarea Philippi as well, like it was on a high place. There was a lot of high places in the Bible, but that simply meant that it was on like this hill or this mountaintop, right? They call those the high places because that's where the pagan worship and everything took place at. It was at a high place, and it had all these things were built of rocks. So Jesus always talked in parables. He looks at Peter and gives Peter this new name. He says, I'm going to call you Peter, which means rock, because they was already located around all these rocks and stones and all these things. He says, and so get this, there was a pagan place of worship at a high place, and Jesus says, on this rock, I will build my church. He says, and the powers of hell will not conquer it. Somebody say the church is always relevant. Church is always relevant. Church is never gonna, God's church is never gonna be out of style. It's never gonna be not needed. It's never gonna be not worth coming to. It's never gonna be like I might as well not go. It's always gonna be relevant. Why? Because Jesus says, upon this rock, I will build my church, and the powers of hell will not conquer it. Signifying that it does not matter how much they gossip about the church. It doesn't matter how much they come against the church. It does not matter what they try and do to the church. It does not matter how much turmoil people try and bring up in the church. The church is always going to be relevant because Jesus says the gates of hell will not conquer it. Will not. They will not conquer it. Verse 19, the last verse, it says, and I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven. And whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. Whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven. And whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. This is a powerful teaching right here because, for one, it's the most powerful statement of faith that the Apostle Peter makes. He says, like, you are the Son, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And so that was a powerful statement the Apostle Peter makes. That was a statement of faith. It's also a significance as well because this is where Jesus first establishes his ecclesia, or his church. His church. His church. You need to remember that. So Jesus establishes this church in here, and Peter makes the most powerful statement of faith ever. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Have you made him Messiah in your life? Have you made him the Son of the living God in your situation? I want to submit to you that any area that you have not submitted unto Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior, you need to submit it unto him, because he says that the gates of hell will not conquer where he resides. The gates of hell will not conquer where Jesus resides. So if you feel like you are being overcome, if you feel like you are being conquered, if you feel like you are being defeated in any area of your life, I want to submit to you, you need to invite Jesus into that place. If you feel like you're defeated in your marriage, you need to invite Jesus in your marriage. If you feel like you're defeated in your finance, you need to invite Jesus into your finances. If you feel like you are defeated in your job or whatever, you need to invite Jesus even in your job. If you feel like you're defeated in your mind, you need to invite Jesus in your mind, because it says that wherever Jesus resides, that the gates of hell cannot conquer that place. I'm talking about some benefits. With God, we heard the song earlier. He says, withholding nothing. And you got to understand, with God, everything comes with Jesus. Sometimes we chase after so many things. The reality is that you chase after him, all the other things follow him or come with it. It's an all-inclusive plan.
That's good. That's good.
If you get Jesus, you get an all-inclusive plan. So real quick, I want to give you a few nuggets. When You walking with Jesus, some of the benefits and the coverage that you have. First of all, he says the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven, you got to understand, what's the kingdom of heaven? The kingdom of heaven is God comprehensive, mean all-inclusive. Comprehensive mean all-inclusive, mean it covers everything. God's comprehensive and sovereign rule in the earth and our lives. That's the kingdom of heaven. That's why Jesus came preaching in the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven. He says the kingdom of heaven is God comprehensive and sovereign rule in the earth and our lives. So 3 things that when you walking with Jesus, the 3 benefits that you get. Number 1, the first one you get is you get the benefit of walking in authority. You get the benefit of authority. I'm going to give you some AAA right here. The first one is authority. When you walk with Jesus, when you receive Jesus, you have authority. That's why he says in Matthew 16, verse 19, he says, whatever. Somebody say whatever. Whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven. Whatever you loose in earth has already been loosed in heaven. So what was Jesus doing? Jesus was giving his disciple, he was giving Peter authority. That's why he gave us the same authority. You guys heard me say this before. In Matthew 10:1, it says that when Jesus sent them out, it says he sent them out with authority. He says, I'm giving you authority to cast out every unclean spirit and every manner of sickness and every disease. So you have the authority to bind and loose some things. He says, I'm going to give you the keys of the kingdom. Keys do 2 things. Keys lock doors or keys unlock some doors. You got the power, you got the authority to lock some things up, or you got the power and the authority to unlock some things. And if you walk up to a door that you know you've been praying about and God has given you authority, God said, I've given you the authority via keys to unlock this door. And you also have the authority of anything that's trying to come against it. You have the power to lock the door, but that thing cannot come in. You have some keys. Keys give you authority. Amen. Keys give you authority to some things, and keys also can unlock some things. You have that authority. So if anything is in your life right now that should be, you have the authority. You have the keys to lock the door to where that thing can't come in. That's good. You have the authority. That's good. You have that authority. The second thing is this in this AAA benefits. The second thing is this: access. All right. Okay. God says, I'm going to give you access to some things. I believe as a ministry, I'm talking about specific for MOCI, God has given us access to some things in this season. He's given us access to it. Just like he gave the apostles in Matthew chapter 16. He says, I'm giving you access. I'm giving you keys. What do keys do? Keys give you access to something. You have access to some things that you have not even tapped into yet. You have access to some things that will open doors for you. God will blow your mind if you just use your key to get access to that thing. God desires to blow your mind in this season. That's why he says in Ephesians 3:20, he says, I will do exceedingly and abundantly above anything that you can ask, think, or imagine, according to the power that's working in you. What's that power? Your keys. So whatever you need in this season, if you want God to blow your mind in this season, just use your keys to access some things in your life in this season. You got benefits. So the first one is he gave you authority. The second one is he gave you access. The third one is this. He gave you the assurance. He gives you assurance. What is that? Like he gives you assurance. When God says something, it is so. He says, heaven and earth may pass away, but my word never will. He said his word will never pass away. So if God says that, what do I have? You have some assurance that whatever God said it's so.
That's good.
That's some assurance. Like people can like they can try and say things and write stuff up in contracts and all kind of stuff, but that's not really assurance. That's why they call it a promissory note. Like it's like I'll make you a promise, but like if it defaults, like it defaults all the time. He says God, when God speaks, God says, I work off assurance. I don't work off probability. The world works off probability. God works off assurance.
That's good.
God says, when I say it, it's going to happen.
Man.
When I say it, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
That's good.
It's going to happen. But we just have to know what we have authority to, what we have access to.
Yes.
And God says, if I gave you authority over it, if I gave you access to it, then you can rest assured that it will happen. It will happen. The Bible holds over 7,000 promises of God, and God says you have access to every one of them. Every one of them. You got AAA benefits with God. Amen. It's an all-comprehensive, inclusive plan. God says, I give you authority. I've given you access. And watch this. It's not I'm giving it to you. God says, I've already given you authority. I've already given you access. And I've already given you assurance. Right? He says, because I given you the keys of the kingdom. So you can bind and loose some things. You can lock things up, or you can allow some things to enter, or you can kick some things out. But you have AAA benefits with God.
That's good. Amen.
All-inclusive plan. You just got to tap into it.